We're here at Good Vibes talking to some of the teachers, and actually, Steve, of course, you are our CEO here at Good Vibes, but you're also a classical guitarist and a teacher. So we want to just get more of a background into all of the staff that work here, so to ask you questions about your kind of musical background, your musical career, what led you to kind of being here now. So start off with, tell us how you first got into playing.
Well, I actually started off as a trumpeter or cornet, fairly young. I've got vague recollections. I remember I had to stop because I had braces, and of course brass and braces don't really go together. So that one very quickly went to the wayside. And I didn't actually start playing guitar until I was about 13 or 14. I think it was fairly late actually, by kind of traditional means, if you like. And I remember like begging my parents for a guitar for some reason, and eventually they went and got me a cheap guitar from Argos, and they borrowed a guitar book from a friend, and basically I taught myself how to read music and play a few chords and bits and pieces, and my parents thought that I was quite interested in sticking at it a little bit, and so they got us a guitar teacher, and it kind of went from there really. So yeah, that's kind of background. So it's about 13, 14 I think when I really started kind of getting into music.
And I guess that's fairly unusual to want to get into classical guitar at that kind of age.
Yeah, well, I had a few electric guitar lessons to start off with, and I was in school, and I got a teacher in school. I remember it so clearly because my parents were quite big fans of classical music. They weren't like, they're aficionados, let's call them that. And I sat down, and my teacher gave me a choice. He said, it was the first lesson, he goes, right, so do you want to learn to play electric or do you want to learn to play classical? And I so wanted to say electric, but I went, my parents said, no, they're going to want me to play classical, so I'll play classical. And that's what it was, and so that's how I started, because I guess I really wanted to please my parents and make them proud of me, and so yeah, I went down the classical route and did the kind of very traditional, okay, let's go down the grade routes, and did that kind of stuff. So I did grade 1 to 5 fairly quickly, and within 4 years or so I skipped a load of grades and went straight to grade 8 because I was getting to that point of A levels and bits and pieces like that. And then from there I went off to music college, went to Welsh College of Music and Drama, and I've been really fortunate for my own learning to have worked with some absolutely fab musicians and teachers, so lots of them I'm still in touch with. So even from my very first teachers, who funnily enough was a bass teacher actually, but he taught guitar, Howard Lewis, very first teacher, then went to Ed Muddyman, who worked at our local music service, and I was with him for a long time, and then went over to people as I advanced through the grades and got a bit better, learning with people like Ray Burley and John Mills, and eventually learning with some people like Craig Ogden, who's just phenomenal, and perhaps the world's best exponent at the moment of classical guitar, just fabulous person.
Wow. And did you have a kind of did you do a lot of performing and stuff when you were at music college and after?
Well, I did. Yes, of course, it's part of the course. It was a performance course, so it was 3 years really spent in a practice room and playing and stuff. And even when I was at school, I had some really amazing opportunities. I remember one time my teacher Ed, he organised me to play with a string quartet, to play the Vivaldi concerto, which was just insane at that point. Of just going, you don't get that kind of opportunity as a guitarist. So it's quite forward looking. For me though, I didn't really ever enjoy performing. I didn't get that buzz from it. In fact, I get really bad stage fright and my hand shakes and all the rest of it. So it wasn't anything that I really ever wanted to just get into. I love playing, and I still love playing. The performing side of things was never really my cup of tea. Prefer it when there's more people on stage, so when you're playing in duets, quartets and stuff, that's much more fun for me. These days I get my enjoyment out of seeing other people just love making music. That's, for me, is way better feeling than me getting on the stage and putting other people through what I do.
Yeah, that's interesting. So was that your first sort of live gigging experience?
The Vivaldi stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they do end of term concerts and stuff like that, so you go and play for a few minutes doing those kinds of things, but it wasn't anything massively serious in there. I played around being in bands and stuff as well. We had practice in the church hall, and that was about it. Make an awful lot of noise and walk out with slight tinnitus.
We've all been there.
Yeah,
that's cool. And so, how did you get into teaching and the kind of education side of music? So you sort of finished music college. Where did you go then next?
Well, once I finished college, like I was practicing about 8 hours a day when I was at college.
Wow.
It was seriously intense,
Yeah.
and basically I'd had enough of it. I came out and I went off and did some other completely different things. I put my guitar behind the sofa for about 6 months, never picked it up again, and went off and developed a career in IT and all those kinds of things. And when I was, I had piano lessons as well when I was a kid, and I was a terrible student. I know I was awful. And big regret, I wish I carried on playing the piano because it's a fabulous instrument. My teacher was a local musician called Sarah Watts, who now is actually quite big in the educational world. She does a lot of composing for students and a lot of publishing and those kinds of things. And I grew up in Milton Keynes, and she ran a summer camp, a music summer camp over a venue called the Stables, which is run by a clear angel at Danquist. And each year they did a 4-week summer camp. And it was a different group of pupils each week and a different team of teachers each week. And one day I got a phone call from her, I don't know from her why, she said, "Oh, Steve, we're running a summer camp and we can't afford to pay you or anything like that. Would you like to come and teach on it? We can pay your bar bill." Oh, okay, that sounds cool.
They must not have known you.
So I went into this situation where I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
It was, when I say a camp, it was proper camp. It was like sleeping in tents under canvas. And it was a really intense time from like 8 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. It was just constant music and productions and acting and all that kind of stuff. And so I was helping out with the guitar stuff on there, and I absolutely loved it. It was just one of those things. It was like, this is so cool, like amazing. And so that was a real eye opener. I was working in IT at the time, and I was like, oh, this is bonkers. Like, I can't sit in front of this screen for the next 40 years when I've just found this out. And so I basically jacked it all in. And I started doing a bit of teaching. I was doing a bit of teaching on the side, and I got a job down in Berkshire and moved down here. That was early 2000s. And been down here ever since and doing all kinds of different things. So really it's thanks to my piano teacher that I got into teaching.
Oh wow, that's mad. That's a really intense first experience of teaching though, isn't it? Kind of long duration.
Long duration, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, it's that thing. You're on duty the whole time, as it were, but you're not teaching the whole time, and you're helping out doing different things and whatever. But I'd never seen like youngsters, and I was only 22 at the time, something like 23. And I've never seen like young people have such a good time and loving what they were doing so much. It was just amazing.
So do you think that experience in some ways informed your kind of teaching ethos?
Yeah, because you kind of get together a load of students, because it's all based by age. You didn't know what you kind of walking into, what the grades were necessarily, how good they were, different styles. I'd be in front of a load of students who played electric guitar, a bit of bass guitar and some classical guitar, and you're like, okay, let's put something together. So it became a very open kind of approach, and so as I kind of went through my kind of teacher career, that's informed an awful lot of it, of going actually like, what do students want to be doing, and what's going to inspire them and want to play outside and get them excited about stuff. But it was marrying up that with progress, and how do I get them to keep moving forward as well, because it's very easy to go around the same thing over and over again, and boredom sets in, and etc. So yeah, absolutely, seeing that very open, creative, improvisatory kind of way of approach was, absolutely. I've never thought of it like that actually, but it certainly stems back then. Yeah,
that's really interesting. Have you got a kind of career highlight that you could kind of pick? Something that you've done, either playing, teaching?
You know what, there's been so many. I've been really lucky with what I've done, and so many opportunities I've got. One of them was when I was head of guitar for the local music service. We had a really great department with about 1,800 students learning. It was a big department, and at the time I was conducting the Berkshire Youth Guitar Orchestra, which is quite unusual. You don't really get guitar orchestras. It's like a big guitar ensemble. And we had about 35, 40 students in there, all grade 6 plus, grade 5 plus, something like that. So they're good players, it's really great. Every other year we took them on tour, so we've been to Spain, Germany, Italy a couple of times. We even took them to China one year, and it's just fab. So some of those stuff was really great. Took them to the Wigmore Hall in London to play there. We played at the Albert Hall where we did a premiere of a piece of music. So there were some really cool things happening there. Lots of very, very fond memories of that time. And then probably the other thing is actually like taking a bit of a risk, actually, to be honest with you, and going like, I've got this ethos and what I believe in, and don't necessarily believe in everything that's happening in music education. This was maybe 5-6 years ago. Go, you know what, I want to make a bit more of a difference and like try something different. And that eventually turned into what we're doing at Good Vibes now, which I'm just so incredibly proud of. And not just of what I've achieved, but as a team, what we've achieved as a group of people, and what our students are achieving is just, I love it.
That's great. And it kind of, so that neatly leads us on to Good Vibes.
Yeah.
What was the kind of idea-wise the genesis of Good Vibes?
Yeah, well, my linking a bit back to what we were just saying about Sarah was that I always wanted to make music relevant to people. It was about like, how can I make a classical guitar really exciting for someone? It's a great instrument. And where I was at the time, there was lots of really cool things happening, but there was a big hole in my eyes that within the kind of contemporary modern world is that there was something like 140,000 students in Berkshire, and at the time where I was working there, teaching about 6,000, which sounds like a big number, but when you turn it into a percentage, it's not very big. You go, we're not reaching as many students as we could do, because potentially we're not making music as relevant to students, to people. And so my idea was to like, okay, what's missing? What could we be doing to reach more people? Not the same people, that's not the idea. I don't want to convert everybody that's playing a violin into being an electric guitarist. That's not the idea at all. But what about these other 134,000 people that aren't involved in making music? What can we be doing to find the right thing for them? So it was taking me out of my comfort zone, because I'm a classical guitarist, and yes, I worked up and was deputy head as well, and so I've seen things from a slightly different angle there. But it was a proper out of your comfort zone kind of thing, going like, I don't know the answers to some of this stuff, but I know that we need to do something here. And so that's kind of eventually turned into looking at the more modern instruments, electric guitars, bass guitars, but also stuff like music production and DJing and songwriting and things like that, that actually students and young people and adults as well, people are writing music and playing around with music in their own on their computers and stuff. And so actually, how can we help them and support them and open up these new avenues for people like that?
Absolutely. And I think it's really amazing, because the kind of thing that I guess you're saying without saying is that it's based on a belief that everybody enjoys music, everyone consumes music, therefore everyone should have an opportunity to make music.
Yeah. When you talk to people, especially when you talk to people about singing, they're like, oh, I can't sing. And there's this belief they can't do it. Now, you can question that. Somebody's got their own confident belief that I can't sing. Fine, okay, if that's what you believe, that's cool, that's your prerogative. I've never come across anybody who says, I don't like music. I mean, it's all around us. I've never met anybody who just says, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I think there has been a tradition in the past where I think it's seen as, maybe particularly in the classical world, that music can be sort of for a certain set of elite students.
Yeah.
It's kind of an additional extra for people that are already high performers, rather than, I guess, what it really is, which is it's an art form that we all engage in pretty much every day.
Absolutely. I mean, music is part of everyone's lives. People often talk about a soundtrack of your life, and you've got your headphones on when you're walking down the street. You put the radio on when you're doing the cooking in the evening. You've got music when you're playing video games. It's around us all the time, and I guess what I'm trying to do is open up the potential for people to not only, I hate the word, but consume it and listen to it, but actually be creative yourself. And that creativity could be playing the songs they know, it could, or they like or want to explore, or it could be creating their own music as well. That's the other side to it, is this whole kind of creativity element.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense to me, because I think we talked last time about how I always talk about marrying up, the music that they consume or the music they hear in their everyday life with what they want to learn, and I guess breaking down the barriers that there's any kind of pretentiousness around music. There is no hierarchy of what is, what's better than what. It's just it's all different. Different types of the same art form.
Absolutely. I mean, what there is a lot of barriers, and those are some of the barriers that we're working really hard here to break down, to make actually music more accessible, more easily easy to get into, if you like. And that's going to be an ongoing, continuous job of work. And that's never going to stop for everybody who's involved in music.
So, brings me on nicely to what is the kind of plan with Good Vibes going forwards? What's the plan? What's the vision?
Well, we want to be as strong as we can possibly be. Our aim is to get as many people making music as possible. Simple as that. We want to provide really great opportunities for our students, and we've got we work together to create our 5 pillars that we've talked about before: ability, creativity, musicality, performance, and collaboration. And that's what we see the kind of 5 strands that takes us for a really great musician. And so what we want to do is to spread the word about that and get as many people making music as possible. And that might not just be like learning through us and with us using our approaches and making it as simple as possible for people to learn, but it might also be connecting people to other people as well. So it's really reaching out, becoming a firm part of the community here in Newbury to begin with, bringing people together, building that kind of musical community, getting people making music, not just learning to play an instrument though, and this is really important because that's one part of it. But making music is also about working with other people. So that could be playing in bands, it could be writing songs together, it could be out performing together, it could be recording a CD or a track together, those kind of things. And that for me, those 2 little bits there, that collaboration performance, that's going to be where the really exciting stuff happens, where people can put their skills into place and do something really exciting, get lots and lots of enjoyment and fun out of it.
And for example, last year, I guess we had our students perform in front of 10,000 people at a performance, but we also had a sort of safe space for students to perform in front of no more than 20 people. So we've really got performance opportunities for students at all levels.
It's really important because you'll notice as a musician, what you can't do is to go from having just lessons to being in a stage in Wembley Stadium. Like you've got to build up to it, and you've got to build that comfort zone and gradually push that comfort zone. So there's almost a kind of pathway through of building your kind of performance confidence, and it's something actually quite a lot of my approaches and how I see my own teaching opportunities I want to create for people is looking back at my own experiences and going, what did I miss? You know, and creativity and improvisation. Like I'm scared stiff of someone turn around and go, right, Steve, can you just do a 16-bar solo? What? No, I'm all right, thanks. Because as a classical guitarist, I've never been away from a piece of music. It scares the hell out of me. But I don't want students to have that same experience. Like people should be able to. There's nothing. There shouldn't be anything scary about playing a few notes and making something up. So it's about kind of creating the right opportunities at the right time. And almost personalising that journey for people, because there'll be some people who can jump levels, some people go like, oh, off over here, and we'll do that. A prime example is that we've got a really great DJ student, Pip, who she warmed up for a gig for Denise Van Outen recently up at the racecourse, and I think that was her 2nd gig maybe, and absolutely fab. She had the dance floor ripping it up, it was just superb. But then we've also run our kind of Your Space nights, which are really kind of calm, friendly, easygoing open mic night for teenagers. So it's from everything in between and trying to create those really great partnerships to be able to enable those to happen, because we can't put on a gig for 10,000 people, but working with other people we can do.
Yeah. And so last couple of questions we're going to ask you. The first one is, what is a track or a song that reminds you of your childhood? And then a second kind of bolt-on question, what is one track or song that you'd want to pass on to somebody else?
Okay. So I think my parents, I wouldn't say they always had music on, but there was usually music knocking around. The radio was always on, that kind of stuff. But both of my parents were really big fans of Ella Fitzgerald and Neil Diamond. Slightly different.
Yeah.
So probably one of those two. Something like, I don't know, America by Neil Diamond maybe, or Tisket Tasket by Ella. Ella's just got the most amazing voice. Let's go with Ella. She's just got an incredible soulful voice. I love it. And then probably something to pass on. I don't know. My kind of music really formed in the kind of mid to late 90s when I was like 16, 17. Oasis had just come through. I was a proper Britpop kid. Oasis, not Blur. So maybe something Oasis, but actually thinking about it, probably a track that really takes me back then is, that I'd like to pass on rather, is probably Moving On Up by Primal Scream.